Welcome to the Pop Docs channel. I am Joseph. I am one half of the Pop Docs, here to say welcome to WOT Wednesday. We are talking in this video about the Wheel of Time. Why is that? Well, I love the Wheel of Time, as my background probably demonstrates here, and we are looking ahead to season 2 of the television adaptation of the Wheel of Time, and I am so excited for season 2. And the reason I wanted to make this video in particular today is because the Wheel of Time Twitter account dropped 4 new stills from the upcoming season, and I want to talk about them because they get me so excited for September 1st, the release date of season 2. But before jumping into these new photographs from season 2, so I wanted to briefly tell you all about my own views on season 1. And I had high hopes for season 1. I am an avid fan of The Wheel of Time. It is my favorite fantasy series of all time. That may be due to the fact that it's the first long-form fantasy series I can recall reading, but I also just enjoy the world that Robert Jordan created. Love spending time with the characters that are in this particular story. And even though it's my favorite, I certainly recognize that there are limitations and there are many critiques to be lodged against the Wheel of Time. Nevertheless, it remains my favorite series of all time. And so I had been hoping for a adaptation of the Wheel of Time for many, many years. Always thought would be a television adaptation because I just have no conception of how you could adapt the Wheel of Time in movie form. I think it would be a very daunting task, a very expensive task. So ultimately, when it was announced that we'd be getting a Wheel of Time series produced by, among others, Amazon, I was stoked. And I liked the first season. Like most of the first season, loved a couple of the episodes. My favorite episode being the Dragon Reborn episode that we got. And I really felt like the show was kind of on a parabolic trajectory. I thought the first episode wasn't very good. It wasn't well paced. Really didn't do a very good job introducing us to a lot of the main characters, in my view. But it really picked up steam, and I really thought it was hitting its stride around the 4, 5, 6. I should have meant that. Around the 3, 4, 5, 6 episode portion of the first season. And then particularly episode 8, I think went off the rails in different ways. And certainly I want to make allowance for the different production difficulties, complications, obstacles that they undoubtedly face, whether that was due to the pandemic, whether it was due to Barney Harris leaving the show, presumably necessitating rewrites. And so certainly going to grant the creators a mulligan on that dimension. And so even though I would rate the first season probably around a 6, 6.5 out of 10, I nevertheless was left wanting more of the Wheel of Time. And so I've been very excited and very much looking forward to season 2. Spent a long time lamenting the absence of content from season 2, even the lack of a release date for the second season of the Wheel of Time. But we now have that release date. We now have various stills that have been released by Entertainment Weekly, by the marketing team over at Amazon. We got some discussion, particularly from the Entertainment Weekly article that had those initial sets of photographs and stills from the upcoming season, which you can hear myself and the other half of the Pop Docs, my sister Denny, talk about in the second episode of our Pop Docs podcast, which is available on our YouTube channel and in most places where listeners find their favorite podcast. So if you're interested in our take on those initial photographs from that Entertainment Weekly article, please check that podcast episode out. But today, as I mentioned at the top of this video, we got 4 new stills from season 2 of the Wheel of Time, and I just want to talk through them because I think 3 of the 4 in particular are really awesome. Okay, so I have the first of the 4 photographs that we got from Wheel of Time Season 2 pulled up on screen here. But before diving into Lan and what he might be looking at, a disclaimer for this video. I will be talking spoilers. Spoilers from Season 1 of the Wheel of Time, spoilers from books 2 and 3 of the Wheel of Time book series. That would be The Great Hunt and The Dragon Reborn, because not only do I want to talk about each of these photos and the excitement that they bring for the upcoming season of the series, but I also want to speculate a little bit on what we might expect based upon what these photos are depicting and some of the theories I have for Season 2. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's jump into the photographs that we got. The first one being Lan. And once again, we have Lan looking off into the distance with a concerned look on his face. This is essentially where we left Lan in the first season as he trekked across the Blight, tracking Moraine, and then ultimately finding Moraine stilled or shielded, essentially unable to access the one power at the eye of the world. The more recent collection of stills we got from Season 2 had a photograph of Lan astride a horse, looking off into the distance with a concerned look on his face. So we're getting a lot of concerned Lan so far in the promotional materials for Season 2. And I really did enjoy Lan as a character in Season 1, but very much like the overarching trend of the show, I thought his character arc really hit its stride in the middle of the season, obviously with Episode 5, Blood Calls Blood, in depicting the relationship, among others, between him and Stepan, the warder. And then as we got further along, as we approached the end of Season 1, he really did seem to fade into the background. He had a lovely set of scenes with Nynaeve, and while I really did enjoy watching their relationship grow and their love blossom, I did think his declaration of love for Nynaeve at the tail end of Season 1 was a little rushed. It was not well paced. I thought that should have been a scene that we see a little further down the road, maybe next season or the season after that. Nevertheless, really did like the depiction of Lan, and there was much more emotion that Daniel Henney, the actor playing Lan, was able to infuse this character with than he gets in the novels in many different ways. Having said that, though, the stills we've gone for Season 2, along with the way that it ended in Season 1 for his character, I do think that they've started to try to go too far towards the stoic. Let me try that again. The stoic Lan from the books. Hopefully, this is just a concern that I have now, and that once Season 2 starts, we will get the Lan that we got from the middle portion of Season 1 of The Wheel of Time. Alongside the joy I had watching Daniel Henney portraying Lan in Season 1, there's another reason I'm really excited and intrigued by both Lan and Moraine in Season 2 of The Wheel of Time. Because, particularly in Book 2 of the Wheel of Time book series, Lan and Moraine don't do very much in that particular story. They're off researching different elements, and then they pop back up at the very end of the story. More to do in the third book, The Dragon Reborn, as they are chasing Rand across several countries, ultimately ending up in Tyr, and Moraine gets to demonstrate, I believe for the first time in the novels, balefire. And I won't go in depth in this video into what balefire is, in case there are those that have not read further along in the series. But it is an incredible usage of the one power that has significant consequences throughout the whole story of the Wheel of Time. And Moraine has a very fascinating scene where she uses balefire to essentially defeat one of the Forsaken, Balal, in the Stone of Tyr. Which leads me to my first theory of the video, is that part of the storyline for Lan and Moraine, while also being an attempt to try to remove the shield or to reverse the stilling, if that is what happened at the end of Season 1, the reason why she cannot access and use the one power, while that will be a thread, I think, through this season, I imagine she's going to be able to access the one power. She's going to be able to resolve whatever it is that is blocking her access. And so I wonder if we're going to have multiple Forsaken at the end of season 2 in the midst of the Battle of Falm, which is the culminating event as we understand it, given the materials that we've had access to for speculating, predicting, theorizing about season 2. And so that Falm is, to a certain degree, a stand-in for Tyr in the Dragon Reborn, in that Moiraine is going to have the moment at the end of this season whereby she takes on one of the Forsaken, utilizes Balefire, and defeats that Forsaken, while Rand is fighting with Ishamael, who is now still being considered the Dark One by Amazon as we await season 2. So I think ultimately, my big theory for Lan Moiraine this particular season is that creators are going to merge the end of book 2 with the end of book 3, but do so in Falm and limit it to Falm as opposed to going to Tyr following the battle at Falm. The last thing I wanted to mention about Lan and Moiraine in this upcoming season is that I think in many ways their story could really be a marker for the success and effectiveness of this upcoming season. Why might that be? Depending on how much original content they create for Moiraine and Lan, given the fact that in The Great Hunt, they only have a couple scenes. So I do think this is going to lead to the writers creating a storyline, an original storyline for portions of this season. And so I think in large measure, the success of this season is going to be determined in part by how interesting, intriguing, engaging that new content is. I could be completely wrong about that, but let me know what you think about that particular theory down in the comments as we move to the next photograph that we got, which is Donald Finn, our new Matt Cawthon. The probably most significant aspect of this photograph is what appears to be a quarterstaff. And this is a harbinger, I think, of a lot of famous scenes from the books being adapted for the television series. I think this confirms that we are going to get the duel between Matt and Galad and Gawain in the water pits early on in the particular season. However, this blurred background does not appear to me to be the same environment location as Tar Valon. In fact, this seems to have an arid desert quality to it, and the arid desert quality seems to characterize Falm as they are depicting it in this particular television series. So this seems to be, in my own view, Matt with a quarterstaff at Falm. And so this is, I believe, a photograph from the tail end of this upcoming season. For the light's sake, can someone please get Matt some new clothes? It looks like he's still wearing the same clothes that he had when he left the Two Rivers. And so I hope there is someone out there in this show's universe that will actually give him some new threads to wear, and he can get rid of that ratty bathrobe that he has wandered around the Westlands in and wandered around Randland in for maybe 2 seasons here, if this in fact does take place at the tail end of season 2. But I am incredibly excited to see Donald Finn and Matt in this season. I really enjoyed the portrayal of Barney Harris. It was sad to see him leave the show. And admittedly, Matt is one of my favorite characters from the overarching story of the Wheel of Time. So I am looking forward to him being more active in the narrative. It looks like he will be engaging in some of the fighting, some of the altercations, the battles that we're going to see in this particular season. So I'm very much looking to all those different dynamics. But one thing that I think needs to happen, that needs to be adapted straight from the book, is Matt is the one to sound the horn of Valir, to call forth the heroes from ages past. I believe we got confirmation from the Wheel of Time team that they will be sounding the horn of Valir in this season, because during the release video that the Wheel of Time marketing team sent out, there was the message, the famous verse from the Horn of Valir, "The grave is no bar to my call." seemingly confirming that we are going to see someone utilize the Horn of Valir this season. I hope it's Donald. Please let Donald toot this season and allow him to blow the Horn of Valir as he did in the books. I am so excited for the culminating battle, it seems like it's going to be, in Falme this season, and I cannot wait to see the scene where the Horn of Valir is sounded over this battle. The third photo that we have is of Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine. We have another one of our new characters that I am excited to see on screen in the story here. They appear to be in some subterranean area, a cellar, a basement of some kind. Egwene and Elaine appear to be in novice clothing. Nynaeve appears to have passed her accepted tests. She has the accepted colors on her wrist. They're all holding lanterns. And Egwene and Nynaeve appear to be carrying knapsacks. They look like they're about to go on some journey. And so I think this is these three young women getting ready to join Liandrin in the ways on the way to Falme and to some devastating storylines near the tail end of the Great Hunt that I won't get into in this particular video. But this is my crazy theory about this particular photo, is that this is the beginning of their journey from the White Tower to Falme. And so I think there is a Liandrin standing off screen here next to a Waygate, and they're all about to enter into the ways once again, try to avoid Machin Shin on their way to Falme. I am incredibly excited to see the White Tower, hopefully in all of its glory, see more Aes Sedai, more novices, more apprentices, more denizens, more inhabitants of the White Tower than we saw in the first season. Hopefully see more than a couple rooms in the White Tower, more than the hall leading into the Hall of Sitters in the White Tower. The White Tower, I thought, felt very small and confined the way that it was shot in the first season, the way it was utilized in the first season. And I think the way that season 1 ended with Matt being in the White Tower, presumably from the production stills we've gotten, commentary, articles, sizzle reels, behind the scenes content, we're going to have several of the characters in the White Tower trained to be Aes Sedai. And so I think this is a real opportunity to open up that whole area, the whole environment, that tower, to really allow the audience to see what goes on day to day in the White Tower, the day-to-day operation of the White Tower, actions of the Aes Sedai, and also what it means to be a novice or accepted. And then certainly cannot wait to see Nynaeve's accepted test. I think it's going to be an amazing sequence of scenes, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all the exploits that take place in the White Tower in this upcoming season. Finally, we have Perrin Goldeneyes looking menacing, looking very wolf-like at presumably some adversary. Could it be Dane Bornhold? Could it be other White Cloaks? Could it be Shan-Chan? Who is he looking at? I cannot wait to see. But this is something I wanted to see from Perrin. I do want to see him lean more into discovering what it means to be a wolf brother. I want to see him beginning to step up into a leadership role. And so this particular still gives me a lot of confidence in where the creative team is taking Perrin in this upcoming season. Because I think for much of the first season, he was kind of caught in the background. And at certain points, it didn't seem like the creative team really knew what to do with him. And this, I think, was very similar to how this would occur, given what he suffered and went through in the first episode, that he would be processing that trauma throughout season 1. Nevertheless, it still felt like the creative team, the writers, were a little directionless on Perrin in season 1. And I think through the different promotional materials we've gotten so far for season 2, I have a lot of faith that they have given him a direction, that he's moving his story forward, and that ultimately I think he's going to be able to process the trauma he experienced in season 1 while also stepping up and taking on the mantle of a leader, which will set him up, I think, wonderfully for his Two Rivers arc, presumably coming up in season 3. Maybe season 4. Season 4 seems a little too far for that particular storyline. So either way, I think we're going to get the Two Rivers storyline. And I think the seeds for the role he's going to play in the Two Rivers storyline need to be planted in this particular season. And super excited. I cannot wait to see his growth throughout the season. I want to reiterate again that everything we've gotten that purportedly depicts events occurring within Falm at the end of the season have been amazing. And I think the end of this upcoming season is going to be not only madness, but awesome, fascinating, explosive, heartbreaking, tragic, yet triumphant, resigned, yet hopeful. I think we're going to be feeling a lot of emotions come the end of season 2, and I cannot wait. Those are my initial thoughts on the drop we got today for Wheel Time Season 2. Please jump into the comments below. Let me know what you thought about these particular photos. Give me your theories on what is going to happen in Season 2 of the Wheel of Time, whether those theories emerge from these photographs, whether they're reinforced by these photographs, whether or not maybe you have new theories because your original theories have been debunked by these photographs. Whatever it may be, join the conversation in the comments below. Let's keep talking about Wheel of Time. Let's keep the enthusiasm up for Wheel of Time Season 2 as we get closer and closer to September 1st. Undoubtedly, we will be getting more Season 2 content from the Wheel of Time creators and marketing over at Amazon. Certainly what many of us, if not all of us, are really waiting for in advance of September 1st is the trailer for Season 2. And so as these drops are made by Amazon, I will continue to make and post videos about my own thoughts on these different promotional materials, because ultimately I love fantasy, I love sci-fi, I love talking about them. I really love talking about the Wheel of Time. And so I will take every opportunity as a way to further the discussion, to continue the discussion, to join the discussion on the Wheel of Time in anticipation of Season 2. So with that, the Pop Docs Clinic for this video is now closed.